Good afternoon, Council. Just prior to getting started, I would like to ask Mr. Fred Searle to please turn on his camera. Gosh, I hope you're online. That's not Fred. Mr. Searle, are you online? There
Good afternoon,
we go.
Masters. Yes, I am.
Sean, can I ask you to turn yours off, your camera off? Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Searle. We would like to, good afternoon. You're going to have to sit here during this, and everyone can look at Mr. Fred Searle. We would like to recognize a long-serving employee whose last council meeting is today. He'll be retiring on June 30th. Fred's had 31 years of service at the City of Regina, and all of his time has been spent in planning. He started back in 1990 as a City Planner 1 and has worked his way up to Director and has attended almost every council meeting in his tenure. Fred has done a lot in his time here at the city. He's worked on some very notable projects like the creation and adoptions of 2 zoning bylaws, the downtown neighborhood plan, the building permit implementation. So when you talk about Fred's career, there's not much that hasn't moved forward in this community around land use and development that he's not had his hands on. Watching Fred work, you can see how much everyone trusts him. He considers everyone's concerns and how much he truly cares about his relationships, both internally and externally to the organization. His impact on not only built form of the city and the neighborhoods we live in, but also the ongoing relationships with the development and building community is proof of the trust and respect everyone has for Fred. Regina is a much better place because of Fred's leadership and his commitment as a planner to make Regina a better place. Thank you, sir, for your dedication to the City of Regina. You'll be greatly missed, and we all wish you a happy and well-deserved retirement. There's a virtual clapping going on, just so you know. You can't hear it, but it's happening. Is there anything you'd like to say? You're welcome to.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Masters and members of City Council administration. For me, I'm starting to choke up. My apologies. It's been really an honor for me to have served our community, and I really appreciate the trust that's been placed in me to do that. I've always viewed my role with the city as helping our citizens and helping our community to find solutions and really working with people to do that. And I think that's, for me personally, that's the essence of community building and the importance of that. So I do thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. This is a wonderful team we have at the City of Regina. I wish our council, our mayor, all the very best as you move forward with the agenda for our community. And I'm so grateful and thankful to have been part of this. I will say that my wife and I will continue to make Regina our home. We absolutely love the community and plan to be here for many, many years. So I'm always open to coffee. I love to sit down and have a chat, and I really look forward to that. I do want to just take a moment to wish my successor, Autumn Dawson, all the best in her role as our new director. Autumn will do a wonderful job, and I wish her all the best in the new role. And so I just want to thank everybody, and I really appreciate this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, welcome to the June 23rd, 2021 City Council meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. We acknowledge we are on the traditional lands of the Treaty 4 territory, a treaty signed with 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan, parts of Alberta and Manitoba, and the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. To ensure social distancing measures are being met, members of council and many members of city administration are attending the meeting today through video conferencing. I'd like to remind those members who are attending of the following. Ensure your video camera and microphone are turned off. If a member of council wishes to speak, use the raised hand function to be placed into a speaking queue. We've changed this slightly from previous council meetings just to prevent the pop-up notices that are blocking individuals' faces, as well as presentations that happen on screen. When speaking, please unmute your microphone, enable your video camera, and all votes will be conducted with a recorded vote. Delegations will be attending the meeting today through teleconferencing to address council on various items on the agenda. Can I please have someone move a motion to approve the agenda at the call of the chair?
Bresciani.
I have Councillor Zakidniak and seconded by Councillor Bresciani. Any opposed? Hearing none, carried. Approval of the minutes. Can I have someone move a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the City Council meetings held on June 9th, 2021?
Vendura.
Thank you, Councillor Vendura. Seconder?
Hawkins.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Hearing none, carried. First on the agenda is public hearing and public notice bylaws. We'll now consider the bylaws that require a public hearing, and I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Stevens.
Thank you. There are two bylaws to be read, 2021-43 and 44, both Regina zoning amendment bylaws. I move, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that bylaws 2021-43 and 44 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor LeBlanc is not currently in attendance. Can I have someone else on council second the reading, please?
Bresciani.
Thank you, Councillor Bresciani. Mr. City Clerk, could you please comment relative to the reading?
Thank you, Mayor. Council is now considering two bylaws in this public hearing. Number 2021-43 to rezone the property at 1450 Hamilton Street to allow the existing office space to be occupied as a principal office use, and number 2021-44 to delegate authority to the development officer respecting discretionary use applications based on prescribed criteria. In accordance with our pandemic protocols, interested parties wishing to address council on this matter were informed that they were required to register in advance of today's hearing. We received none, Mayor.
Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, carrying. Councillor Stevens, can you please do the second reading?
I move, seconded by Councillor Zakidniak, the council hereby consents to bylaws 2021-43 and 44 going to, be read a second time. Got ahead of myself.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Does any member of council have any questions? Any opposed? Hearing none, carried. Councillor Stevens, third reading, please.
I move, seconded by Councillor Shaw, that council hereby consents to bylaws 2021-43 and 44 going to a third reading at this meeting.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Councillor Stevens, can you do the final reading, please?
I move, seconded by Councillor Mancinelli, that bylaws 2021-43 and 44 be read a third time.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Moving on, we have a delegation for CR 21-102, the Varsity Park Recreation Upgrades donation. I'm just waiting on a delegation. One moment, please. I'd like to call upon delegation Elizabeth Lockhart. Please introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, and where you're calling from. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which time you'll have the opportunity to respond to any question that members of council may have for you. Good afternoon, Ms. Lockhart.
Hello, are you?
We can hear you, ma'am. Please proceed. Ms. Lockhart,
Hello?
are you there? Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay, I will do my speech. Varsity Park Project. Dear City Council members, hello, my name is Elizabeth Lockhart, and I am a resident of Varsity Park. I represent the Varsity Park area. I am calling from Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. I collected a petition with signatures opposing the construction of a new basketball court from Varsity Park residents who live adjacent to the new proposed Varsity Park site. The signed petition was approximately 50%. 14 of the 30 homes who received a letter in the mailbox in front of their homes. Due to the limited time factor of responding to the community committee, some people were not at home, and another elderly lady had wished to consult with her husband, who was not at home at the time, before signing the petition. I may have collected more signed signatures on the petition. I emailed this signed petition to City Administration and Councillor Lori Briciani. I am in favor of the upgrades that will be completed on the spray pad and tennis court, pickleball court. The reasons for the opposition of a new basketball court is the noise and added traffic. I currently reside on Phillip Road. Teens currently park across the street from my home on Phillip Road, east of the tennis court, east of the spray pad playground, and by Harlech School, the existing basketball court. I live by the playground and hear the loud music from their ghetto blasters as they play basketball, and I am located half a block away from where they are playing. Residents I talk to from the neighborhood on Phillip Road report these teens play basketball in the early morning, 1 to 2 a.m., past midnight. The basketballs have also come across the street from where they are playing and hit their vehicles parked in front of their home. Teens like to accumulate in their cars on Phillip Road and by and in the park late at night and are noisy. At times they yell, have loud music coming from their vehicles. There are currently 3 basketball courts. With removal of one and the construction of a new one, the teens will definitely be playing on the new basketball court, which is scheduled to be built right across the street from my home, as I live in the center of the block on Phillip Road. We will hear the balls hitting the chain link fence late at night. The kids also like to be playing their loud music. It can become a hangout, even if they are not playing basketball, and will be hidden from new trees which we planted by the street. According to the survey of 288 respondents, with the new upgrade of a basketball court, 96 respondents will only use the basketball court sometimes, and 74 respondents never. Daily 19, weekly 57, monthly 38. The respondents not using the basketball court are higher than people planning on using the basketball court. Perhaps you can upgrade the other 2 existing basketball courts or move the proposed basketball site further west by the gravel road or north of the tennis court, further away from Phillip Road and residents. Behind Harlech School, southwest of Harlech School, there is currently a basketball court. Upgrade that one. Also, there is Varsity Park and Sandra Schmerler Park by Sunrise Library that a basketball court could be built by those locations. Thank you for listening to me and other residents of Varsity Park.
Thank you, Ms. Lockhart.
You're welcome.
Do any members of council have any questions of the delegation? I'm just going to make one last call because of the change in terms of putting up the hands. Any members of council wish to speak? Sorry, questions? Hearing none? Thank you very much for your presentation this afternoon, Ms. Lockhart. I will ask that you now leave the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, bye.
We'll now consider item CR 21-102, Varsity Park Recreation Upgrades Donation. Councillor Hawkins, could I please ask that you introduce the report?
Thank you very much, Mayor Masters. This was a matter that was considered earlier in committee. We recognize the comments that the delegation has just made. It was pointed out that if there are noise difficulties, they can be handled through the noise bylaw. We pointed out that there was a need for recreation for young people, and the basketball court was important to that. And we also recognize the efforts of the Community Association in raising funds to help this. And that points to the kind of partnerships that the city hopes to make with other organizations. So on those basis, we thought this was a much needed upgrade that will serve the community and the young people, especially in the community. And I'd ask for support.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Could we have a seconder for Councillor Hawkins' motion?
Bresciani.
Thank you, Thank you, Councillor Bresciani. Any question from members on the report?
Mayor Masters, I'm trying to click the hand button as we were instructed, but it does not allow me to. So I'm not sure if anyone else has tried, but I would like to speak to this if that's possible.
Certainly, Councillor Bresciani. I'll have Deputy City Clerk look into that. Please proceed.
Thank you. I would like to say thank you to the community for coming together on this one. And just, we didn't ask administration to speak to this, but what happened was Arcola East had done the consultation, and as we heard from the delegation, they just did a drop-off. So then they went back at a later time, mailed out, did another mail out to the neighbors, as well as, and what had happened, the recommendation was supposed to have the basketball right adjacent on the Phillip Road. When the feedback came back, it was indicated that that was a concern from the residents, that it was going to be right on a lot of, traffic, more so with the kids right on the road and balls and all that kind of stuff. So the community association kind of went back with the home and school at Howrah and said, we have no problem moving it more into the park to address that. So that was a big part of the consideration there. I know it doesn't meet everybody's need, but the one big thing here, which I think is a win-win, is the Arcola East Community Association donated $140 to this. And Endeavour for the Recreation as well, the East Zone, and Howrah School is also a partner in this in the City of Regina. So it was a real collaborative effort to get this work done in this park. And the work needed to be done in the park as far as the tennis courts were dilapidated, so that needed to be done, and as well as the other piece, the spray pad, which has been out of service for quite a few years. So again, I just want to say thank you to the staff for working, but also Arcola East, and engaging the school community and also the residents and working together. I understand not everybody was happy, but there was I'm going to say a way to try and mitigate and find the best solution. So that's all I have, and I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bresciani. And on a note to picking up on one of your comments, Ms. Howrah, would you wish to speak to this matter?
Through you, Mayor Masters. I think Councillor Bresciani summarized it quite well. We did revise the location of the proposed basketball courts to address those concerns, as well as took all the feedback. And just of note, the petition came in March, and we recirculated the revised drawing on May 6th. And after that recirculation, there was no comments that we received.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mancinelli.
Thank you, and through the chair, I was just wondering about the community investment in this. What type of fundraising was done, and what was the time frame that it took them to achieve this? It's very impressive.
Through you, Mayor Masters, I might start. I believe that some of this, they already had monies within their bank accounts, but I'll ask Ms. Steridich maybe to go through the details of the Arcola East, and if she knows whether or not they fundraise specifically for this project.
Through your worship, our understanding is that, as Ms. Howrah has noted, that the Arcola East did have some funds that they had in their account from revenues generated from community programs that they had put on for the community. It is our understanding that they may want to do some fundraising within the school community to contribute as well, but that will happen later in September when school goes back in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Mancinelli. I see no further questions. Mr. City Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll begin with Councillor Hawkins, please.
In favor.
Councillor Bresciani.
In favor.
Councillor Stadnichuk.
In favor.
Councillor Stevens.
In favor.
Councillor Findura.
In favor.
Councillor LeBlanc, are you on the line? Councillor Shaw.
In favor.
Councillor Zahidniak.
In favor.
Councillor Mancinelli.
In favor.
Councillor Moore.
In favor.
Mayor Masters.
In favor.
Carries 10-0, Mayor.
Thank you, and I apologize, Councillor Hawkins. I should have flipped you off to close the discussion. I'll make up for that.
Mayor Masters, I was just going to point out that the amount raised was $140,000, not $140.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. We'll now consider item CM 21-10, requesting designation under the Provincial Disaster Assistance Program, and I believe Mr. Holden, our city manager, would like to speak to that.
Thank you. And through you, Masters. So the report in front of you is asking for a resolution of council to make application to the Provincial Disaster Assistance Program, also known as PDAP, for the City of Regina to be designated as an eligible assistance area. So PDAP is a program that administers federal funds to assist Canadians who experience damage due to natural disasters where insurance remedies are not available. So as everyone is aware, we had a heavy rainfall event that occurred in Regina on June 11th. And after the occurrences, the city was met with service requests which identified several reported cases of basement flooding and property damage. So this is a government-run initiative funded through the federal government. So as a result, there would be no financial impact on the City of Regina. Residents would be provided an opportunity to recover costs of uninsurable damages, and that's the key. So, the program requires people to seek insurance remedies first, but if they're not available, then this is an opportunity for residents and individuals to apply. So we as the city would also be eligible if we determined that we had some loss that, again, was uninsurable. So it's our recommendation that if council passes this resolution, then obviously we'll process the application through the provincial government, and that would create the eligibility opportunity for residents in the community. And with that, either between myself, Mr. Onrait, Chief Jackson, and Mr. Rowden, we'd be pleased to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. City Council, the issue before you is looking for a resolution to request designation under the Provincial Disaster Assistance Program. Can I have someone move the report, please?
Stadnichuk.
Thank you, Councillor Stadnichuk. A seconder?
Shaw.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Are there any questions from members as it relates to the resolution to apply for this program? Councillor
Yes.
Stadnichuk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the report, through you, Madam Mayor, the question, the report states that there were between 140 and 200 homes that had damage or requested assistance. Since the report has been written, has there been any other requests? I'm just wanting to know if 200 is what we are estimating would be the maximum amount.
So through our masters, obviously the information in the report is the information that we have at hand. Obviously,
Okay.
people are calling Service Regina, and I believe, we had in excess of 300 calls. We also know that, just through our contacts, that there's been numerous contacts and requests through SGI. But of course, we won't actually know firm numbers until, we start to receive applications. And even then, people deal directly with their insurance brokers. So we don't have firm numbers. We're not privy to that level of detail.
Okay, thank you. Through the mayor, another question. Just Has there been any municipal infrastructure that was damaged by the heavy rains?
I'll ask Mr. Onright to provide that level of detail.
Through the mayor. At this point, none detected, but we are continuing to inspect pipes and pumps. All of the pumps during the event were working, so we have an engineering group that's out doing follow-up on all of the locations that were virtually hit the hardest.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadnichuk. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Masters, just some clarification, because I know I talked about this with some residents when this first happened. I'm trying to understand this. Would this take in lieu of home insurance, or would this be added on to the home insurance, or would you only have to do one? Through you, Madam Mayor.
So through you, Your Worship, this is a program that is available should insurance not cover your loss or your damage.
Okay. So just a question to add to that through you, Mayor Masters. Is this a guarantee that it'll be covered if it was due to the city's pipes, problems with the city structure? Through you, Mayor Masters.
So through Your Worship, so there is an application process. There is criteria that obviously individuals need to meet in terms of eligibility of a claim. So that is done independent of the city. We really become, for a lack of a better term, we become the middleman to make sure that people can access the application. And of course, this resolution makes applicants eligible for consideration under the program.
So just to add to that, sorry, I keep adding to my questions. So if it is, what I'm wondering is the problems that exist with the city structure. I heard a lot of feedback from residents in my ward and from around the city. Would this therefore bring it to our awareness as the city that this is some serious problems we have in our infrastructure, or would this have any weight on what the city does with our infrastructure? Through you, Mayor Masters.
So through Your Masters, I'll start, and then I might ask Mr. Onright to provide some additional comment. So obviously when we receive or are subject to significant weather events, in this case, a flooding event, obviously that puts our infrastructure under pressure. But at the same time, we have designed systems to manage wastewater. We have significant, infrastructure in place to manage drainage. If someone was to feel that their damage or their risk was directly associated from the City of Regina, then they would go through a process to make a claim against the City of Regina. But I'm sure that Mr. Onright and Mr. Doney may have some additional information as to the performance of our infrastructure on that day.
Through Your Worship. So I'll add to Mr. Holden's comments. If you look over the last 5 years, there has been a tremendous amount of money invested in drainage, including sewer pipes, McCarthy Boulevard, wastewater treatment plant, and that investment handled this rain event very well. So there was a third main put in from McCarthy out to the wastewater treatment plant. It handled all the flow going through there. There were no issues with that. We just finished investing in additional pumps and upgrading pumps at McCarthy in the last 2 years. We are investing $5 to $10 million in drainage alone. So when you look at the utility capital budget, there's a large amount of money being invested, and that is to deal with events like this. There's more work coming forward, but each year we've been putting in between $5 and $10 million into that program. I'd like to just say thank you, and we appreciate that work.
there's a specific area, and I'm going to talk to you after maybe about this regarding this. It's kind of where I was going with this, but thank you very much. That's all the questions I have, you guys. Thanks.
Thanks you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mayor. A number of residents suffer property damages when their cars are caught in flooded underpasses. Some residents have suggested that there could be a warning system, an arm that comes down that would prevent you from entering an underpass when water started to rise in it. I'm just wondering whether the city has considered any measures which would prevent damage to vehicles caught in underpasses during a flood.
Through you, Mayor Masters, in our post-event follow-up, that is one of the discussions that we've had, and we'll work on how to secure those underpasses in a better way other than blockades, barriers, because what happened on Friday is even though we had the underpasses barricaded, people were driving around the barricades and still driving through the underpasses. So that was one of the items that we're in discussion about right now as to what to do in the event, which we all know will happen again, as to how we can better deal with that. So there is absolutely no way vehicular traffic would be permitted to go in those underpasses.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the answer.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Bresciani.
Thank you, Mayor Masters. Just a follow-up to that. I think the question is around our infrastructure. So we know that this is, we call them kind of one-offs with the flooding. But I guess we've seen other flooding during other times, not just within the flood, for backup of sewers. Can I ask how this differs from like I know it's a disaster, but right now, do we have anything in place for these other times when all of a sudden the sewer backs up for residents?
Through you, Mayor Masters, I'll ask Mr. Doney to comment.
Through you, Mayor Masters. So yes, there's significant upgrades planned for the wastewater and the stormwater system. As part of the utility capital budget, we'll see items about wastewater capacity upgrades, and that is to reduce the risk of sewer backups, and also significant drainage upgrades to keep the rainwater out of the wastewater system. So it is a long-term program that we are working on, and Mr. Honore did mention a couple of the big items that have been completed, the wastewater treatment plant and the McCarthy Boulevard pumping station.
Thank you. I guess the other question is, though, is that we continue to have other sewer backups. And I'm just wondering if there is a way to tag on to those ones that are occurring other than from a provincial disaster, is what I'm asking. Right now, are any of those covered through a plan or anything like that when someone gets sewer backup? To the chair.
So through my masters. So, Mr. Doney's indicated we have capital programs that make those investments, and there have been significant improvements over time. So, just looking at the previous flood events that we've actually pursued this designation back in 2015 and 2017. To your point, the investments in infrastructure on an ongoing basis are trying to reduce those types of events. But homeowners, either they need to pursue their insurance if they had an event outside of something that we would look at disaster assistance for, or again, if homeowners feel that their loss or their incident is a direct result of city infrastructure, then we do have a process where they could submit a claim to the city. But our ultimate goal is obviously to improve our systems and mitigate the risk so that these occurrences are very infrequent. I'm not sure we'll ever eliminate them totally.
Thank you for that. That's clear. The last question I do have is in regards to reducing or actually, I guess, draining some of the waste downstream to our users. And I know that I guess, is there a mitigation there to reduce that to our lakes downstream for our Indigenous and our community lakes that are affected by this?
So through you, Mayor Masters, I'll start and then I'll ask Mr. Onrait and maybe Mr. Doney to add additional commentary. Again, the investment that was made in the wastewater treatment plant, that was the number one infrastructure priority to, reduce and eliminate any risk of bypass or, exposure to the creek of effluent. And of course, further improvements at McCarthy and the addition of a third line. So again, the actions that the city is taking to mitigate those possible exposures is top of mind for us. And between Mr. Onrait and Mr. Doney, those capital programs are targeted at eliminating that. Obviously, we have requirements to report should we ever have any, leakage or bypass events, et cetera, that put effluent into the creek system. If there is an exposure, often it is a engineering design process where, the amount of effluent and the actual stormwater concentration is so minimal that the Water Security Agency, who we have an obligation to report to under our permit, through their assessment would say that any impact to the creek system is negligible or insignificant. Doesn't mean it's not a concern for downstream users, totally understand that, but we're doing everything within our control to manage that, mitigate that, and also ensure that we're communicating when those exposures happen to those downstream users that are impacted. I'm not sure if Mr. Onrait has anything to add.
Thank you. I'll maybe just add that it's important to understand that Water Security Agency regulates the city of Regina. So testing that is being done currently downstream, that information will go to Water Security Agency, and we will be in discussions with them once they receive the testing. As Mr. Holden indicated, I think the progress in this area over the last 5 years has been substantial. The release that occurred on Friday was, and to Mr. Holden's comment, there is a concern. We definitely hear the concern from the downstream users. But the investment the city of Regina has made in the infrastructure is working towards what Mr. Holden indicated. Our ultimate goal would be to never have to do this. But I think when you look at the complexity of the systems, the amount of money involved, the amount of engineering work that has to be done, it's not fair to say that, Monday morning we can put a solution in place to fix the problem. These are steps that our engineering group takes moving towards the end goal, and some of these projects are very, very big, and they take time to design, make sure the funds are in place, and move forward with the actual work. And then the solution or the outcomes we see is what we see happen on Friday with wastewater treatment plant and the McCarthy pumping station. So all that time and effort that went into those plans has paid off because the result is what was planned for, and that is no bypass.
Councillor Bresciani, do you have another question?
I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Councillor Bresciani. Councillor Zakidniak, do you have a question relative to the designation under the Provincial Disaster Assistance Program?
I guess we'll see. I think so. So I just wanted to note that these sorts of extreme weather occurrences, we can anticipate that this is going to become a more common event we see that we've had 2 previous applications for PDAP assistance in 2014, 2015, now another one in 2021. We know that the impacts of the climate crisis are increased extreme weather events. So I think it's good that we've done some of the legwork we're working on the energy and sustainability framework. I think we will continue to have these conversations and need to continue to ensure that we're investing properly in our infrastructure to handle the increased strains on our system due to the climate crisis. So I just wanted to note that these conversations and continued focus on this issue is going to be really important for us as a city council. So I don't know if that was deemed relevant or not, but I just thought that was important to point out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sakidniak. Councillor Mancinelli, question relative to the designation under the provincial disaster order.
I'm going to go for it. I think so. I was wondering through you, Mayor Masters, if administration could please explain at what point they want affected residents to engage with them and what their preferred method of engagement would be.
So through your Masters, I'll ask Mr. Onright to respond to just the process of how residents access the program.
Through you, Mayor Masters. So once the resolution is approved, the application will be forwarded to the province. That will take a few weeks to process. Once that's complete, we will make sure we have a number of service requests that have come in asking for assistance. So we will make sure that those residents are aware there is an application process to follow. We will assist with the where to direct them for application forms to make sure they're getting the proper assistance in filling these out. The onus is on the applicant. The city does not fill the forms out. That is up to the resident, but we will make sure we have our communications team and emergency management involved in how we handle this in getting the right information to the residents.
Thank you for that. A follow-up that's not pertinent to the matter at hand, but just for a quick answer, will we have another opportunity to download or discuss this event and maybe how it affects the planning and some of the measures might be taken for future events at a later date?
So through your Masters, I think there's always an opportunity to provide information when we bring our annual budget documents around our capital investments to just highlight, the measures and the actions that are being taken to mitigate and prevent these types of, incidents from occurring in the future. So I think that would be the proper time for us to bring that information forward.
I appreciate that. Just a thought outside of that, some of the decisions we're faced with as council and the planning of green space and such can also have a great measure on this due to the SAF fees and where we access funds to implement some of these measures. Once again, is there any ability to have some type of a session for a discussion or maybe a little bit of creative thinking through this, through the chair?
Councillor Mancinelli, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think the short answer is yes.
Yeah, that's all I need. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions. Councillor Stadnicek, did you wish to close off?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, please call the question.
Thank you. I'll begin with Councillor Stadnicek, please.
In favor.
Councillor Hawkins.
In favor.
Councillor Stevens.
In favor.
Councillor Bresciani.
In favor.
Councillor Findura.
In favor.
I believe Councillor LeBlanc has joined the meeting.
In favor.
Councillor Shaw.
In favor.
Councillor Zahidniak.
In favor.
Councillor Mancinelli.
In favor.
Councillor Moore.
In favor.
Mayor Masters.
In favor.
Carries 11-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving into committee reports, we'll now consider item CR 21-99, a request to amend exemption conditions for the Regina Airport Authority. Councillor Stevens, could I ask you to introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I get a seconder, please?
Bresciani.
Thank you. So the report and the request from the Regina Airport Authority is really a continuance of an agreement that we had initially reached with the Airport Authority several years ago prior to COVID. The pandemic, of course, undermined their efforts to attract particular airlines to the city. At Executive Committee, we had another robust discussion. We were also privy to some commercially sensitive material that we couldn't discuss publicly, but it was kind of a background provided to us by the authority. The details and the costs are highlighted in the report. One matter of note, while not officially attached to this particular agreement, the airport has agreed to honor its commitment to help finance for a 3-year period the dedicated airport route. That, of course, would come online once the city and once council agrees that airport traffic has picked up post-COVID and once that route has been brought online. With that said, I'll ask a city administration to provide an overview of the amount, the implications for the education tax contribution, and any other implications of this agreement.
Mr. Lacey?
Through you, Mayor Masters, so thank you. So maybe just to add some additional comment. So the municipal portion of the partial property tax exemption is $311,400 a year. And the time period of this exemption is a 5-year time period, so that would end at December 31st of 2023 under the original structure. The education portion, the $311,000 is really in part driven by the fact the province is committed to provide an exemption on the education portion of the property tax should the city of Regina exempt its proportionate portion on the municipal side. I think the Regina International Airport is a main economic driver for the city. And it does inject millions of dollars into our local economy each year. As Councillor Stevens has indicated, the purpose of this partial tax exemption is to assist the airport in attracting a daily direct service into a major U.S. hub. And having a direct service into a major U.S. hub would have significant positive impacts on transportation, business, and tourism here in Regina, and as well, in addition to the economic and business positive impacts, have a broader impact on quality of life as well with respect to providing additional options to travelers looking for destinations south of the border. So with that, essentially what's being requested here is that there was a couple of conditions in the original approval because of COVID. As mentioned, the airport's not been able to meet those conditions. And so essentially the two conditions that are being asked to be amended here is that the airport secure a commitment by an airline for daily service into the U.S. by December 31st of 2022. That was originally 2020. And that further that airline commence actually providing that service by December 31st, 2023. Previously, that was 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lacey. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, Councillor Stevens, did you wish to close off debate?
Nothing to add.
All right. Looks like a good example of municipal and provincial collaboration to support economic development in the city of Regina. Mr. Clerk, please call the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll begin with Councillor Stevens, please.
In favor.
Councillor Bresciani.
In favor.
Councillor Findura.
In favor.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Opposed.
Councillor Shaw.
In favor.
Councillor Zahidniak.
In favor.
Councillor Mancinelli.
In favor.
Councillor Moore.
In favor.
Councillor Stadnichuk.
In favor.
Councillor Hawkins.
In favor.
Mayor Masters.
In favor.
Carries 10-1, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now consider item CR 21-100, Canada Centre Recreation Hub. Councillor Stevens, can I ask that you please introduce the report?
Thank you. Can I get a seconder again, please?
Stadnichuk.
All right, whoever that was, thank you. This is a really exciting report and investment in our recreation infrastructure. I think it does reflect the commitment of this council as well as the previous council in investing in amenities that actually service the public. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about what this will invest in. We have multiple recreation opportunities in this renovated space. Pickleball, of course, where would we be without that? Lots of discussion about it. And I think perhaps most importantly, a dedicated space for skateboarding and other recreation opportunities. This is a great expenditure in my mind and certainly reflects council's commitment to this campus as well as improving recreation services in Regina. Administration, if you have anything else to add in terms of cost, the implications, and what precisely this goes towards, please go ahead.
Ms. Harlock?
Through you, Mayor Masters. So as Councillor Stevens had indicated, the administration was approached by two organizations with opportunities to partner on the recreation facilities. So that was skateboarding and the pickleball. So after discussing these opportunities with the organizations, we recognized the opportunity and to work with REAL to find the location. So we've done that and worked closely with REAL to come up with this. This meets our recreation master plan. It's an investment of $2 million in capital, and the contribution from our recreation and cultural capital plan is where we'll get the funding from. We will be sorting out the cash flowing of that fund, that capital program, and it'll get readjusted in 2024. But the idea is that we're going to try and not affect that capital plan by advancing this work. But it is a benefit to the overall community and meets a lot of the needs that we're seeing, and also does the whole partnership and collaboration with ourselves and REAL and these organizations. So we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Harlock. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Stevens, did you wish to close off this? Oh, pardon me. I'll wait. Councillor Shaw.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment that I'm super excited about this. I just had to say it on the record.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Stevens? Anything to offer further?
No, I'm done.
Perfect. Thank you very much to administration for bringing this forward and for making this happen. And I know it happened in relatively short order. And a thank you to previous council as well, because I know you've been working on the issue of the skate park for some time. So well done. Mr. Clerk, please call the vote.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll begin with Councillor Stevens, please.
In favor.
Councillor Stadnichuk.
In favor.
Councillor Hawkins.
In favor.
Councillor Mole.
In favor.
Councillor Mancinelli.
In favor.
Councillor Zahidniak.
In favor.
Councillor Shaw.
In favor.
Councillor LeBlanc.
In favor.
Councillor Findura.
In favor.
Councillor Bresciani.
In favor.
Mayor Masters.
In favor.
Carries 11-0, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Bresciani, I'm going to give you a little bit of credit for the excitement on that vote, given you've offered to teach everyone to play pickleball. Moving on, we'll now consider item CR 21-101, appointment to Board of Police Commissioner. Councillor Stevens, could I ask that you please introduce the report?
Thank you. Could I get a seconder, please? Councillor Mancinelli, is that you? Great, thank you. This is a nominee, Patricia Thompson, that has been selected by Executive Committee. A very accomplished and very capable addition to the Board of Police Commissioners. The other remark that I'll say is that we have received incredible nominees and applicants for all of these positions, for the board as well as for other committees that are available to the public. A great deal of credit is owed to the clerk's office for improving our community outreach in terms of diversity, CVs, experience, background, you name it. it's increasingly difficult to make a decision on who we nominate to these boards because of the applicants we're getting. So I'm quite pleased to advance Patricia Thompson as the nominee to the Board of Police Commissioners.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Well said. Any questions from council? We won't do a roll call. I'll simply ask. Any opposed? Hearing none? Carried. We will now consider item CR 21-103, the downtown accessible washroom update. Councillor Hawkins, could I ask you please introduce the report?
Thank you very much, Mayor Masters. We had a good discussion about this in the Operations Committee. It was passed unanimously. It was thought to be an important addition to the city downtown. Following reasons: if you've got to go, you've got to go. There are people with medical conditions that need washrooms unexpectedly. There are families with young children that need washrooms. We're trying to attract people into our downtown, and it's important to do that. To do that, we provide facilities with them. This washroom will be an accessible washroom. There was no discussion at any point of about a fee, so that so as to encourage to prevent people from being blocked from using it. The cost is between $350,000 and $500,000. Some people felt that was a lot of money for just a washroom. This is not quite the same thing as just putting a washroom in your home. We have to find a location. We have to put out an RFP. We have to design this accessible washroom. It has to be engineered. It has to be constructed. All of those things take a long time. So the start date is thought to be 2023. There are also a number of things that are still to be worked out. Primary among them is how to ensure safety for the washroom and how to ensure cleanliness. And to do that, the city will look at best practices in other cities. It's important for safety reasons that there be adequate supervision, and cleanliness is a critical matter, especially as we've seen through COVID. So those two operational aspects are front of mind. Hours of operation, again, a matter to be further worked out. Quite possibly dawn to dusk would be the normal hours of operation. So all of these things made it possible to move ahead in Operations Committee to approve this. We initially thought that it would take a pilot project, but we're in a position now, after having studied this and looked at what other communities are doing, to say that it makes sense to go forward through this with this, and I would recommend it for the Ops Committee to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Could I ask a seconder?
Zakidniak.
Thank you, Councillor Zakidniak. Ms. Harlech, would you like to speak to this, please?
Through you, Mayor Masters, I think Councillor Hawkins summed it up quite well. The only thing I would add is that the funding for this was, there was a placeholder put in the Recreation Cultural Capital Plan for this capital investment. And as he noted, there is a few challenges with respect to just making sure that it is accessible. There'll be a minimum of 2 accessible stalls, just trying to find the right location. It would be fully operational in the summer to the fall of 2023, and then in the 2023 budget, there would be the operational asks at that time once we understand the clarity of the design of the facility and the preferred operating hours.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. I certainly support the project. I'll be supporting the report, but I do have a question about how we go about tendering a contract in relationship to the cost. So the estimates here are quite high. I understand it costs quite a bit to build public infrastructure. We could also build a house, a fully functional house, for the same amount, many washrooms. When it comes to procurement, are we at a disadvantage because we publicly say this is how much money we're going to put on the table? And if I was at the private sector, I would say, well, at the very least, I'm going to inflate whatever it costs up to this amount. So how do we get to the range that we have? And are we at a disadvantage now when it comes to going to the market, finding an architect and finding someone to build this, because they know exactly how much we are willing to spend on a project like this?
Thank you. It's a great question. Give me 1 second and we'll see who's going to answer. Ms. Harlock.
Through you, Mayor Masters. I'm going to start and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Lacey. So with the cost estimates, we do know from our experience with the current pavilion that was just built, it was over $350,000, and that's for a 3-season building. This is a 4-season building with requirements that are higher than what's needed with the current pavilion that's out there. And so through our facilities department and estimating, we need to put some sort of budget numbers together, and that is our best estimates. And I might ask Mr. Lacey to talk about the procurement process.
Mr. Lacey.
Through you, Mayor Masters. So thank you. So I think my comments will be more general in nature. I appreciate the councillor's comments with respect to putting a budget number out there. I think that's in part just part of the public and transparent accountability of how we and other municipalities seek approvals for capital projects. I would say that when we put forward projects, we do internally cost out what we expect the cost of those projects to come in at. So we do costing with respect to the nature of the project, the materials involved, and the length of time that we think it'll take to undertake that construction project. And I would say generally our costing is pretty consistent with what we see come in from the competitive procurement process as well. And that would be maybe the final comment I have. I do appreciate the concern, but these are competitive procurement processes. And so while there is some knowledge out there about what we've budgeted around that number, firms are typically competing with a number of other construction companies for this work. So I think generally, we do believe we do have a competitive process that does get us good pricing. And we do monitor that with respect to the variances we see between what we expect the bids to come in at and what we're seeing.
Councillor Stevens, do you have a follow-up question?
You know, I might pursue this at another time outside of council. I just want to know a little bit more about how we can improve our negotiating skills and capacity as a municipality. This isn't an indictment of individual staff members, because I understand how much this costs, but I'm curious if we could improve our negotiating capacity and what we put on the table to work on bringing these bids down. But that's something I'll bring up at a later date. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Masters. So I would certainly, appreciate the opportunity to sit down and have that conversation another time. I would mention that as a city, in the last year and a half, we have moved to something called negotiated RFPs, where it does present us the opportunity, even after a vendor has submitted their bid, there's an opportunity to negotiate around what they've submitted as a bid once we've selected the preferred vendor. Be happy to talk about that in more detail in another forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lacey. Councillor Bresciani.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on to Councillor Stevens' question. This was discussed and it was asked at committee in regards to the cost of it, as Councillor Hawkins indicated. And I think there was a concern, but back to Councillor Stevens' point, when we put out an RFP, we actually put an approximate price. And I think that's probably one of the biggest concerns is if you actually say we need a washroom, here are the specs, and get quotes back, that's different. Right? That's almost the reverse, and you're looking for someone to provide the best, they can do on it, rather than going the reverse and saying, here's it, and here's the budget for it. Well, then people are going to come in within that. So I would appreciate a side conversation as well on this. I think that, again, I raised it at committee, $500,000. You can build a home with that. But my point is this, I want to be clear. This also includes, I heard from the committee that it costs also the undergrounds and all of that is part of this as well, to the chair.
Through you, Mayor Masters, yes, it includes making sure that we have all the proper hookups for where it needs to be located. That's part of the that would be part of the cost.
Okay, and then the other piece is that we were also looking at, there is a vacant building that is there that will also be in consideration to looking at maybe utilizing some of that space as well. So we don't have to maybe reinvent the wheel. So it would be, again, just trying to look at all options before we have to go down the route of spending the $500,000.
Through you, Mayor Masters. So yes, we will look at options. The vacant building that you're speaking of, as discussed at committee, is a privately owned building, but we are willing to have those conversations with respect to what that would look like. But one of our main objectives is for safety and being able to clean it. So those are the things that we'll take into consideration when we look at opportunities for those spaces. Because currently, right now, the library is the public washrooms for the downtown, which is in close proximity, varying proximity. And the decision was that when we brought this forward, that the library wasn't accessible enough. So we will take those opportunity or those potential opportunities into consideration as we move forward.
Thank you. Just a comment. I support we need a washroom downtown for stated as the reasons. We have families and many people that need a washroom when they have to go, especially with children. But I also want to make sure that we are being prudent as well when we are moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bresciani. Good comments. Councillor Zakadniak, I see you've just raised your hand.
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to know when will council hear an update on this project again? Through the chair, please.
Through you, Mayor Masters, we can provide an update when the final location is selected and the design and when the tenders are going out, but it wouldn't come back typically to council. But we can provide a memo to council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zakadniak. Seeing no further questions, Councillor Hawkins, did you want to close debate?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, please call the vote.
I'll begin with Councillor Hawkins, please.
In favor.
Councillor Zahidniak.
In favor.
Councillor Shaw.
In favor.
Councillor LeBlanc.
In favor.
Councillor Findura.
In favor.
Councillor Bresciani.
In favor.
Councillor Stevens.
In favor.
Councillor Stadnichuk.
In favor.
Councillor Moll.
In favor.
Councillor Mancinelli.
In favor.
Mayor Masters.
In favor.
Carries 11-0, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I will now call upon Councillor Stevens to read notice of motion EN 21-1, asbestos cement. Notice of inquiry. Sorry, it's not a notice of motion. I apologize. A notice of inquiry. Councillor Stevens will introduce EN 21-1 and only read out the inquiry for the record.
Thank you. So there's 8 points. How many kilometers of asbestos cement, hereafter just AC water pipes and sewer pipes, is known to exist in Regina? What is the state of our AC water and sewer pipes in terms of lifespan and quality? Is the city undertaking to replace or reline AC water and sewer pipes? If so, how many kilometers per year? Does the city notify residents about AC pipe replacement and relining? What does the establishment of public health? What does established public health and scientific evidence say about the health implications of AC pipes from a water consumption and workplace occupational health and safety standpoint? What sources of information does the city rely on when considering the public health implications? What do test results reveal about asbestos fibers in Regina's water supply? What other types of water distribution materials exist in the city's inventory? How much? Will the city share this information on the open data site?
Thank you very much. An inquiry is not debatable and no questions or discussions will be permitted. I could have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
Bresciani.
So moved, Mayor Masters.
Councillor Hawkins, I believe Councillor Bresciani beat you to that one. We'll give you the second on it. And I'm going to ask council to stick around for just a few minutes just to have a chat about virtual meetings here. And I'll call a question. Any opposed to adjournment? Hearing none. Well done, council. You'll stay on the line. We'll clear the room and just have